Yo, this is Mike with Comic Lore, and today something happens in Eddie Brock's life that changes it forever. Let's tap in. And we're going to open up in the South Bronx with Eddie's dad on the phone, and he's saying, "How do you think I'm holding up? My brother and his wife got murdered by some maniac. It's a horror story, Linda. I'm still in shock, and that was the day after my nephew drowned. I got to plan his funeral too. Nobody else is left." Eddie who? What Eddie? My son? Nothing doing, Linda. Even if I knew where he was. No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't come if he knew I needed help. Not him, not his boy. Ungrateful, both of them. So what this is doing is showing us that there's some animosity in this relationship between Eddie and his father, and including Dylan and his grandfather. And at that point, Eddie's dad gets a knock on the door, and he goes to open up the door, and the person at the door says, "Carl Brock?" And he says, "Yeah, who wants to know?" And at that point, we're going to have a smash cut over to the outskirts of New York. We're not going to resolve that issue right now. And what we have is Eddie Brock, and he's looking at the Daily Bugle, and he sees the headline with Carnage name and Carnage ruled right on the front with the murder of Shocker. And he's a little confused. He's like, "What's going on? How is this happening when we're supposed to be working together as a team and we're not out there killing people unless they're really bad serial killers and really bad people, not someone who's on a low level like Shocker?" And basically, Carnage tells him, "Let me take a better look." And he pops out Eddie Brock's eye, and he zooms in and looks in at the newspaper, and he tells Eddie Brock, "Man, just relax. That says Carnage ruled, past tense, once a ruler, but no longer. Torment is calling us out, Eddie. He's saying we're not killing enough." And Eddie's like, "I don't give a damn what he thinks." And Carnage replies, "But we've been so slow, so finicky, only killing serial killers. You can't say I haven't been patient, Eddie. You can't say I haven't tried to see things your way." And Eddie again is telling him, "You know the deal. In this situation, I'm the boss. You do what I say. Because if you don't, and I have a fear that you're going to wreak havoc on New York again, I don't mind taking myself out if that means taking you with me. I'll gladly do it." And Carnage is telling him, "Hey, man, don't get too crazy. We need each other. You know it, and I know it. So let's be civil. Let's not get out of hand and start saying things and making threats towards one another." And Eddie Brock is still confused. He's like, "But why the Shocker? Why would he kill the Shocker? What is his connection to his pattern?" And Carnage tells Eddie Brock, "I wish I knew, Eddie. I bet it's something really intricate and fascinating, something really, really cool." And Eddie is getting fed up with Carnage because the way he sees it, and he tells Carnage directly that Carnage is just trying to get him to go after more dangerous criminals because he's hoping that one of them will take out Eddie Brock. And if they take out Eddie Brock, then Carnage will have a new host who's not only as strong or stronger than Eddie Brock, but is also more sinister and more willing to be that more traditional role that Carnage is really craving. He's not really liking the anti-hero situation that Eddie Brock has kind of forced him into. And he's telling Eddie, "I've never kept secrets. I've been very forthcoming with everything I know. You're the boss, but isn't it a little hypocritical to accuse me of wanting to stray? After all, there's a certain symbiote in New York you'd like to slip back into." And obviously, we know he's talking about Venom because Eddie Brock is a long term host of the Venom symbiote in the Marvel Universe. But what we do is we move to Spider-Man and Venom, who is now Mary Jane, and they're walking into the bar with no name. And if you don't know, this is the bar that is ran by Tombstone, and it's a villain bar. So when they walk in, people aren't too happy. They're really upset. Like, why in the world are superheroes walking into our bar? And especially like not today, right? So they're obviously in mourning over what happened with Shocker. And they're like, out of all days, we don't need to deal with a superhero in here, who especially somebody who hands us over to the cops, who beats us down when we're trying to mourn one of our friends who's fallen. And Spider-Man tells him, like, "Who's a hero? I'm not a hero. I'm either a threat or a menace." And that's from J. Jonah Jameson because he's always spazzing out and getting mad at Spider-Man and being like, "He's a menace. That's Spider-Man. He's a threat to New York City," right? He's always going off on Spider-Man, and he never gives Spider-Man a fair shake. And so basically, he's like, "I'm the neighborhood threatening Spider-Man, and I got Venom who's got a federal case open against him. So if we're not really bad guys, then who is? You got to let us in here." And Boomerang tells him, like, "I really don't got time for a bit right now. One of my friends just passed away, and you were here making jokes." And Peter empathizes with him and understands because Boomerang actually was brought back to life by the Shocker. So he knows there's a close connection there. And he's like, hey, man, I know he was your friend. I know he meant a lot to you, but we're trying to help. And I really think he was a good guy because a lot of the people who I fight, they're supervillains trying to take over the world. They're trying to cover the entire universe in blackness. They're trying to destroy life and everything in it. All Shocker did was rob banks. My goal and my hope was that one day he would turn it around and he would redeem himself because honestly, he wasn't that bad of a guy in the grand scheme of things. He wasn't trying to just hurt people for the sake of hurting people. And Spider says, all I can do now really is that I can string up the bad guys so the cops can come get them. Let me do my part. I want to help. I want to put the person who did this behind bars and look out for Herman, the Shocker. And Boomerang's like, well, I can't make this choice on my own. Let me pass this up the chain and see if it's okay for you to even be here, let alone if I can give you any information that may be useful. And he tells him, I'm only going to do this because you're a friend of mine. And Venom's confused. He's like, oh, you're friends with him? And Spider-Man is like, yeah, he jumped in front of Energy Vampire for me. Wait, I told you about that, didn't I? So as Spidey is explaining all of this to Venom, Tombstone walks out and he invites them both to come into his office so they can talk and exchange some information. And as they're walking into the office, Spider-Man is giving Venom the low and he's like, hey, just so you're aware, he might seem all nice and calm and he's got your back, but if you cross him, he'll break every bone in your face, right? As soon as you cross that line, Tombstone is not afraid to hurt you. He didn't become the kingpin, not kingpin himself, right? Not he didn't become the leader of crime in New York by playing nice and making buddies, right? He's willing to hurt you if that's what it takes. And basically, Tombstone's like, hey, I don't want y'all talking. I don't want y'all chit chatting and whispering. This is my place. If you're going to talk here, you're going to need to speak out loud. No whispering. The only person who does that in my establishment is me. And he said, so let's start with why my guy was getting whacked so bad it made the front page. Because Shocker was working for Tombstone. And Tombstone was actually apparently a pretty nice boss to these villains. And that's endearing him with them. So now he's like, what's going on? Why did my guy get hit? And why is Carnage back in New York? Because he's supposed to be one of your people. And Spidey's like, well, technically not really. And Venom's like, yes, literally. And so they're like, okay, so how do we kill it? How do we destroy Carnage? And at this point, Venom starts talking about the weaknesses of the symbiotes, and he's like, we could use fire, but we can learn to tolerate that. It's not the end all be all. If you really want to stop us, it's going to take using sound in a certain frequency. And once we're hit with that, high frequency, high decibel, that's going to really make it difficult for us to survive. And it might even kill the hosts who we're bonded with as well. And Spidey tells him, sorry, can I reinstate my webbing up for the cops position? Can we contain Carnage? And Tombstone's like, contain? He's a murderer. You want to play with kid gloves, go to a kid's place. I'll bring out the ball pit for you. You can sit here and play a kid's game. But we're playing with dangerous people who have murdered people that work for me and countless others who we don't even know. So I'm not here to play games and try to hand them over to justice. I'm here to take them out. Tombstone speaks with Spider-Man. He directs his energy back to Venom and he goes, oh, Sonics, huh? That explains what he stole. And Spider-Man's like, well, what did he steal? I didn't see anything about that. And Tombstone tells him, this wasn't in the paper at all, but based on what I was told and what I know, you're the person who he's going after next because he stole Shocker's Vibro gauntlets. And as we saw in the previous issue of Death Spiral, those gauntlets were doing work on Venom. And so if Torment has those, we know who he's going after. He's going after Mary Jane because she was put on the list by Carnage. So that's why he would need to kill Shocker to have the ability to kill Venom and Mary Jane together. And what happens next is that Eddie Brock, he's doing research and he's trying to figure out what is this connection between all of these murders that is happening so that they can get to Torment. And they're in the side of a library. And Carnage is joking with him and saying, you're sure that's a good enough disguise, Eddie? A fake mustache and sunglasses? It seems so basic. I could create a whole new face for you. Or we could cut off someone else's and wear that. So he's obviously joking about, the old school Groucho Marx mask where you have those dumb glasses, the fake nose and the big mustaches, right? It's like this is the most basic of disguises. And furthermore, wearing somebody's face, I don't know if he meant it, but I'm gonna take it as a callback to the greatest movie of all time, John Travolta, Nicolas Cage, Face Off. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor, pause the video, go watch Face Off, and then come back. It's phenomenal. Really great, cheesy 90s action comedy. But I say that to say this. Let's hop back into it. And Eddie Brock, he's doing research. He's trying to figure out what's going on because he knows there's a pattern. He's trying to figure out what that is. And he says, until we know Torment's pattern, Bailey Bushkin could only tie about 70 kills to Torment. But she theorized there were hundreds more left unsigned, unsolved murders, mystery disappearances, even accidents. And Carnage is like, so you're gonna look up every single death from dysentery and malaria in the county from the last 500 years? And Eddie Brock's like, nah, I'm just looking for unsolved murders for now. And he starts to notice a pattern. He goes, wait, somebody blew up a bus, but half the people on it had the same name, which was the name of the bus company, Brock. And they were all going to the funeral of another Brock. And Carnage is saying, like, oh, how tragic. A whole family. And why, Eddie, that's your name. He's like toying with him like a cat playing with the mouse before he eats it. And Eddie's like, hold on, let me look something up. And he goes, Uncle Mike, Aunt Maxine, when did. No, they can't be right. That can't be. So he's noticing that people in his family are dying and it's getting closer and closer to him. And he realizes, oh my God, my dad, he kills families. That's the connection. He picks the victim and then he kills his way to them, starts with the most distant relative and works in. And you bastard, you knew that. You've been talking to him somehow. You've engineered it so we would have to go after him. You set him on us. You set him on me. So Eddie now knows the truth that Carnage is in communication with Torment using something, but we know it's his cell phone. When Eddie falls asleep, Carnage pulls it out and gives information to Torment. And Carnage is like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'll never do this again. I didn't mean to play with you like that, but if you really want to save your father, you got to go. You better swing as fast as you can to go and help him. And Eddie's like, shut up, shut the hell up. Because even if he has beef with his dad, even if he's neglectful, even if they don't see eye to eye, at the end of the day, that's still his father. And he doesn't want to see him be done in by a sadistic killer like Torment. And as this is going on, we have Venom and Spidey, and they're making their way trying to track the Shocker's gauntlets so that they can find who they think is Carnage. They think Carnage still has the gauntlets at this point, so they're chasing after him. And as this is happening, Venom is basically asking, how does this work? How are you able to find him and track him? And Spider-Man gives him a kind of a very quick, thrown together explanation of, I put the who's its and the what's its, the doohickeys and the famostats, right? Just made up jargon and made up like silly fake science words. Pretty much Peter Parker is very intelligent, comic hand wavy, and he's able to make a device that is going to track down the specific waves and frequency that is coming from Shocker's gauntlets so that they can track him down easily. And it starts working, and Spidey's like, oh, our guy is somewhere uptown, and he's not the only one. Oh boy. And Venom's like, what? And he's like, oh snap, it's Carnage. And Spidey's like, Venom, wait. No, no, don't do this. Don't take him on alone. He's got the Shocker's gloves. And he's like, wait, but my tracker says they're a half mile away. So did I mess up my wiring? Did I do something wrong? But no, he didn't do anything wrong. His machine is working exactly as intended. Carnage doesn't have the gloves, doesn't have the gauntlets. And when this is happening, Venom goes over and he starts beating the brakes off Carnage. He's punching him. He's like, that's right, Daddy's home. And you look so weak, Carnage. Where's the all-powerful spear? Where's the godlike time travel? The deal with Meredith was a real deal with the devil for you, huh? I'm in my golden years. That's how I'm rolling on gold rims, rocking the golden gloves. What are the gold bits made out of? Glad you asked, son. It's anti-Carnage. So Venom is out here. He's out here talking like Prime Muhammad Ali. He's shuffling the feet, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Ain't nothing you can do to touch me. And he's flexing all over Carnage while he's beating him down. And he tells him, time traveling, anti symbiote, magic metal out of the past to kick your ass. You heard Eddie was in town and you figured you'd get the drop on him, huh? Revenge at last? Only you thought he was bounded to me, and you're so pathetic right now that you needed an edge. That's why you stole Shocker's tech. And Peter's like, no, 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 you got it wrong. And Carnage doesn't have these gauntlets. They're up north about 10 blocks. They're with somebody else. And Venom's like, what? But if Carnage doesn't have them, then somebody framed Carnage. And they're trying to figure out what's going on. Why would somebody be framing Carnage? And that's when Carnage gets up and he goes, because Carnage didn't come here to kill Eddie Brock. We came with Eddie Brock because we are Carnage. And they're like, oh, snap. And in this moment, Carnage, he sends out some of his symbiotes, knocks Spider-Man back up against the wall, and Venom's like, what the heck is going on? And so basically he does this to buy some time and he tells them, I'll only warn you once. There's a killer and he's after my dad. So get out of our way. And so he's desperate. He's rushing as fast as he can because he knows Torment's not one to play games. If he wants to kill somebody, he's going to make it happen. And Carnage tells him, brilliant distraction, Eddie. Using that malformed blob's love for Spider-Man against it, masterful. But Eddie Brock is not listening. He is one track mind. He wants to get to his dad and make sure that he's safe. And he flies into his dad's apartment, flies in through the window, and he hears, who's there? And he's like, Dad, Carl, is that you? Oh, thank God. And he says, Eddie. And he goes, how long has it been, right? Carnage is toying with him since you last heard your father's voice. Because Carnage knows that voice is Torment's voice. He knows that's not his dad's voice. And Eddie Brock comes in and he goes, Carl, listen, you don't want to see me and I don't want to see you, but we need to get you out of here. No, it's good to see you, Eddie, after all this time. And so the person who's saying that to him is Torment. And he's saying, it's kind of perfect. And Torment is sitting in his dad's chair. He's rocking his whip in his hand. He's got the gauntlets of Shocker on both of his fists. And behind him is his dad. His dad has been murdered by Torment. And now Torment has took over Carnage's old catchphrase and he plastered over the wall using the blood of Eddie Brock's dad. And he put Torment rules. Now, this is only issue 3, mind you. There are 6 more issues of this story coming out, and we're already seeing people super close to the Spider Mythos who are being taken out. So I am really excited to see where this is going to go. Every week they're dropping a new addition to the story, so make sure you like, subscribe, join us. Also, at 1,000 subs, we will be doing a giveaway for 1 free year of a comic subscription to your choice. So you let me know what that is in the comments. Love to see you there. Peace.